Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to NextOppSocial. We are your hosts, Richelle Wright, Jawad Buford, and Nina Payne, and we believe entrepreneurship is empowerment and committed to the development of the progress of entrepreneurs, providing you with information you need to build thriving businesses. So today we're going live. We're doing things a little different. We're going live in our after show group here, and we're kind of tackling this chat as more of a reflection discussion, which was very much prompted from our chat last week with Kristina Wilson. We often leave our discussions with our guests on a high and definitely inspired, and leaving us with even more questions that we want to dive into as well. So that's what we're going to do today: reflect, discuss, dive deeper into some areas. So let's talk about that a little bit. Where do you guys want to start with some takeaways or things that maybe are still sitting with you a week later?
I'll start. Welcome everybody to the Facebook group. I was inspired, well, from all of our guests, but this time, what really kind of stayed with me with her is that she is a communicator. She's super organized. She's super efficient. And she, even though she came from a background that was challenging, she had amazing parents that kept her engaged and kept her moving, kept her thinking about the future, kept her focused on being the best that she could be. And she was able to develop these relationships early on. And what I mean by that is, the term, your network is your net worth, or your net worth is your network. She started doing that, building that network at an early age when she was selling candy. I think when she was talking about, she used to get the candy out of Costco's and sell it as an entrepreneur. And I really understand she was an entrepreneur, but she started keeping contact with everybody that she touched. And so much so through high school and college and organizations and such, she still is nurturing those relationships so that she's able to tap in. She's built this network for a really long time, and now she's benefiting greatly from that network. And I think there's a lesson in that for all of us, from our relationship building. And sometimes it goes really natural for some people. It's not as natural for me. I have to really work at being to building that work and the connecting and those types of things. And, but it's impressive when somebody just gets it so early and they're able to maintain it and they keep it. It becomes second nature for them to be able to, connect with so many people so easily. So that's one of the things that stay with me.
Yeah, I definitely, she talked about a lot of how her business is just her, right? She's still just a company of one. She's still running everything on her own, at least in her legal aspect of her business. But that even to the growth that she got there, and as still her company of one, she wouldn't have gotten to that level had she not been able to utilize all these relationships that she had built on before. And I think also it spoke to just like how quickly she was also able to build things when she was ready and needed to.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Because she had the right people in her corner to do so.
Yeah, and she still does. So she can make a phone call any minute, and get a wealth of knowledge and get multiple referrals. I do like that. That is important to as a business owner. You have to be able to be connected in multiple ways. And so
yeah,
it's exciting to hear how she utilizes that, not only in her profession, but her nonprofit that she's starting and some other things, that she's shared with us. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to be redundant. You two pretty much knocked it out the park, but as I was listening to her, I immediately thought about the fact that I attended college for the wrong reasons, right? And I think a lot of people do that, right? The ideal is you go to college or university environment to make good grades and go out and quote unquote get a good job. And thankfully, it didn't kill the rubble in me, so I didn't continue down that path. But to be in environments and to know that you're there to network.
Yeah.
To know that you're there to build relationships, to understand how to value those relationships, to pay dividends. To me, it was like understand that you have to invest in that, right? So whether it's a collegiate environment, whether it's attending a conference or a seminar, oftentimes you're not attending or investing in conventions, seminars, and events for the sake of learning things. That's important. But oftentimes it's just to build relationships.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about the time I spent at University of Michigan, I mean, I have peers that have gone out in the world and done some incredible things. You know, they're leaders of unions, leaders of law firms. They've gone on to start hospitals and create institutions in other countries. And the value of those relationships now are not lost on me, but I think to myself, man, what if I really understood what I was there for and really did a deep dive, really filled up my book full of these individuals who are, I know, out here just doing dynamic things. You know, we're oftentimes taught, and you fall into the trap, especially when you're an entrepreneur, because you're starting out a team of me before you turn to a team of we. And it's like, look, I have to do everything. I have to be smarter than everyone else. I have to be better equipped than everyone else. I have to be more skilled than everyone else. Well, no, it's really not that. I mean, if you have the relationships, you can pick up the phone and somebody else with the skills and the talent you don't have, they can become partners. And if you've already developed those relationships, if you've already recruited the friendships before you need them, that's exactly what it is. You're not pitching to anyone. That's a friend.
Yeah.
That's someone that you have a warm relationship with. That's somebody who already wants to see you win because you're already on good terms with them. So it's just a matter of not, are they vested in you? And you don't have to go through that. It's a question of, okay, I've been looking for a way to work with you. Oh, we found it. Let's get it going, you know?
Yeah.
And that's exciting. You know, the mentorship piece, you know, once again, it was one of those things that reminded me, I mean, huge flip that I made. I sat down in front of an entrepreneur a couple months ago, very dynamic, very successful, operates on a national, international stage. And I'm sitting down in front of them. And I very rarely do this, but I didn't go into the meeting thinking, how could I serve them? I didn't do that. I went into it thinking, how can I acquire information from them? How can I learn from them? Which is what was the purpose of the appointment? And they knew that. I was looking for guidance. I was looking for insight. I wanted some direction. But at the end of the appointment, the person turned to me and said, well, you didn't ask me one time, what could you do for me? In my mind, I was thinking, it wasn't that I was being selfish, because I'm thinking that way, but I was like, how can I help a multi-billionaire? What use does a multi-billionaire have for me? I mean, I know how I can help someone who's earning 6 figures. I know how I can help someone that's making 7 figures. I know what I can do for them. But I never thought of myself from that standpoint of being a resource to a billionaire, you know? And I think that serves Kristina very well in the sense that she doesn't have any ceiling or any lid. She has these mentors around her where it's back and forth, right? Not only is she gleaning insight and gleaning information from them, but they also look to her. She said something like, it's not about who you know, but who knows you. These people know her. They know her value. They know her worth. So when she's sitting with them, the highway works back and forth. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that was a huge nugget. Like her self-concept is different. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So she has her practice, but she has this nonprofit and she has this tech company. And she mentioned 2 other endeavors she's involved with. So while it may be a team of me on paper, she has partnerships with people. And they have a symbiotic relationship with each other. Even those who are well advanced, who are punching above her weight class, she still finds a way to develop a symbiotic relationship with them. And I thought that was powerful.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, just to continue in the same vein, Kristina, which everybody will get a chance to hear on a YouTube channel, she was able to use those relationships to build a nonprofit team, right?
Mhm.
People that she knew, people she knew of. She didn't send the information out and say, I'm starting, you know, a startup and I need to hire all these people. And it wasn't like that. She built it on her relationships. And not just, finding auntie so-and-so and cousin so-and-so to do this work because they need help, which a lot of us will end up doing, right? So-and-so is offering to help, so you just plug them in. She actually developed the right way, developed job descriptions, knew the type of staff that she needed, and was able to put the people in those same, and these are people that she knew, into the job description and not the other way around. I know entrepreneurs oftentimes will hire uncle so-and-so and cousin so-and-so to run different things for them because they're available. They trust them in some sort of way. But they're not a good fit. So we overlook the, inability to do things, or inexperience, or, a ton of different things just because they're there for us. Right. And so we're not really getting the job fulfilled the way that we really need to. We are just getting a warm body because they're available. And so I like the way that she was able to build the company first and plug in the people. And she did that off of relationships.
Yeah, she got to build her dream team. And I kind of think about how amazing, that would feel for all of us, right? If you got to build your dream team, right? Just like, how unstoppable would you feel? How successful do you think, like, your aspirations and the goals or whatever, because you knew you had the right people in those spots, not just for those roles, but for everything you're trying to do and whatnot. I think that's just, it's such a luxury. It's
luxury. Yeah, I like that.
But it takes a lot of work, right? And like you were saying, like we've said in the beginning, like she wouldn't have had that ability to do that had she not put in so much time and energy and care around building these relationships and maintaining and growing them.
Yeah. I think that was a lesson learned for all of us, sounds like.
Yeah, her the other thing that I took back from her was her level of preparation. I mean, she went the extra mile, and it was obvious. Like, we didn't even have to ask many questions. I mean, she just crushed through everything. And it was because she actually took the time to look at the questionnaire. I mean, how many times have we sent that questionnaire to guests and they get on here, it's like deer in headlights, and we immediately have to kind of lead them through it, right? I'm not going to call out anyone, we know what it is. And then the fact she actually took the time to watch some of the episodes. So she kind of knew the flow. Like, she even started to wrap it up for us before we asked her to wrap up questions,
I'll figure out the list. Whoops, she talked about that. Whoops, she already said
that. Yeah. I mean, her timing was impeccable.
Yeah.
And, I always think about sports analogies, right? You can have, as an athlete, you can be the most talented person on earth. You can have all the skills. You could have spent a lot of time in the weight room doing what you should do, but that little bit extra, watching the film, right? Being more prepared. You don't have to be as talented. You don't have to be as skilled if you're better prepared. If you know what to anticipate, you know what to expect, you know what your position of power is, right? And she knew what her position of power was. She knew what her strengths were. We didn't have to uncover that for her. I mean, she just articulated that. And she was ready. And I thought about that in everything, right? They say the way you do some things is the way you do everything. And for me, that also, I think I'm prepared the majority of the time. But I will willingly admit there are times where I'm going into a meeting, going into a discussion, and it's like, because I'm really not all that motivated. To be honest, all that motivated, I don't go through the extra preparation, though, and there can be a lot of missed opportunities there. That really caught my attention with her. That was impressive. That was impressive. Don't judge a book by a cover. Don't underestimate where a conversation, engagement, interaction can take you. Because once again, the other take back was, once again, it's not about who you know, but who knows you. Part of that also understanding is you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. You know that when that person gets up from the table or gets off the Zoom call, who they're calling next. And it can be the difference between you operating in obscurity because you weren't impressive, so they didn't tell anyone about you. Or it can mean someone literally becoming a brand ambassador for you and spreading the good news. that despite this insignificant meeting, or despite the fact that I came to the table and didn't have A, B, C, and D, this person rocked it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they changed my world. They changed the way I do things. That's huge. Now I think about that in my work. Like when I have a task, or I know I need to do something for someone, I think about that. But it's not always foremost in my mind sometimes, just my everyday conversations and engagements, right? And it's obvious she's very purposeful in her conversations and engagements. It's no fluff. You know what I'm saying? Like, every conversation, every time, moment spent matters. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I also think too, it's like because a lot, so much of what we're doing here with our guests we're just asking about them, right? We're asking about them and their experience and their career. And, or even when we do dive into specific subject matters with some of our guests, when we bring them back, it's things that on the surface, you'd think that like, well, I can just talk about myself, whatever. I don't need to prepare for this per se, right? Or talk about this topic that I know I talk about all the time. I don't need to prepare per se. But what we find is that and I find this for myself, when I do prepare even just a little bit, it allows me to go deeper, be more articulate about what I'm trying to say, get to my point in a way that I might not stumble through, I guess, and also just there's a relaxed, it helps you relax, right, into what the conversation you're having. But I just find that I know for myself, and I think that was reflective with Kristina, that we were able to go deeper, right? We were able to then ask questions that weren't on that sheet, and they were still extremely thoughtful, deep answers, because she'd already prepared all the other stuff, right, to a certain degree. And it's not to say that some people work well on the fly, right? Because there have been times where I also work really well on the fly, but yeah, just that level of preparation can sometimes make all the difference in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think sometimes we kind of, exactly what you said, and think we know what we're going to say and how we're going to say it. And we may know our brand very well, but you have to kind of be intentional about your points you want to make, right? Or you just end up rambling, or, if you prepare, here are my notes, here's what I'm going to say, here's how I'm going to say it, here's what I need to make sure I'm saying about my brand, here's what I'm making sure that I'm saying about my my direction, my goals. You know what I mean? Just being prepared is night and day. And I've done both. Fly by the seat of your pants because I didn't have time to prepare, or spend some time and write out talking points and get an idea. If you're doing interviews and that sort of thing, or even if you're going into a meeting, like I need to know which direction I want to steer my client prior to getting there. Because oftentimes you'll show up at the meeting, and this is just general entrepreneur stuff. You show up at a meeting with a client and the client ends up leading you, which sometimes is okay, but you're the service. You're providing this tool, this product, or whatever. So knowing where you want to lead the client is super duper important. And you can only do that by preparing. So especially when I did a meeting not too long ago, and there were 21 people in the meeting that I thought we were going to have maybe 4 or 5 people in that meeting. There were 21 people all asking me questions. And so if I had not prepared for this, what I call an ambush, when the client came and got me at the door, she said, I just invited a few more people to the meeting. And I was like, okay, no problem. And I walk in, there's like people standing, and they just wanted to drill me with questions to see if I can handle it. I guess I'm not really sure. But if I had not been prepared for that meeting, that could have thrown everything off, and I wouldn't have got the account. So preparation is another really big lesson learned by Kristina.
Yeah.
Happening. So preparation, networking. What else lessons did we learn from Kristina's vibrant self? Communication. She says she's a talker and she could talk to anybody from the White House to the streets.
I believe it.
You know what I mean? That's a skill in itself. And so that was impressive. To be able to know that. Okay. So So communication,
So,
networking, preparation.
well, I'm glad you went there because I remember I used to tell people all the time, like, it's a training if you take action. If you hear something and you learn something, you don't take action. It's just a talk. It's not a training, right? And for me, when I think about the mission and why we do this, for me personally, it's not just to hear ourselves talk. Like, we want to see people utilize information, take action. We want to see them improve. We want to see them level up in their business, right? And I immediately thought about some of the things I know I'm going to adjust and do differently. You know, once again, because I like to work in a solitary manner, right? I've organized my life in such a way where I can get away and do the things that I want to do. And a lot of those things don't require groups of people. But, it was a reminder to me, I have to be intentional. I need to start attending networking events. I need to be involved in more opportunities where I get to meet people who may not even be operating in my industry, but just be sharpened by other folks, right? And know what the hell's going on, know who's moving, who's doing what. That's important. Even if they may not be beneficial to me personally, just knowing what's going on in the ecosystem makes you more valuable to everyone else in my meet, right? So I thought about that and making the investment. There's a convention coming up in Phoenix, Arizona. I wasn't going to attend it. I was going to participate via Zoom, call it a day. After that, webcast with Kristina, I was like, I'm going. I'm going to make the drive, make the flight, whatever the case may be. I'll figure it out in a couple of days. But I'm going to physically be in that space so I can shake hands and interact with folks I normally wouldn't interact with, right? Be it in a different state, which makes it even more exciting. I want to build outside the state of Michigan, right? Something that I know I'm also going to spend more time doing, like she said, it's about who knows you. For me, I can honestly say that I really haven't been doing a good job of promoting, marketing, branding. I haven't been doing those things. I've been doing the work, head down on projects, trying to push things forward. And I've ignored anything involving marketing and branding whatsoever. And that's like, I know my business is off and I know I'm in trouble when that ratio isn't right, right? I need to spend more time marketing. I need to spend more time branding. I need to take those types of things more seriously because I hadn't been doing it. So you can be the best at what you do, but if no one knows about it, Grant Cardone talks about this all the time. You can't operate in obscurity and expect to win. People have to know, right? You got to be upgrading. You got to be advancing. The other thing that I know I'm going to do a little bit differently is I am going to be more purposeful about punching above my weight class. I think I got a little bit comfortable interacting with and engaging the same people. So it's time for me to start putting myself in environments where I am the least experienced, where I am the least knowledgeable, where I am the least capable person in the room, right? Normally, I'm accustomed to kind of being the resource in the space. Now it's time to put myself in spaces where I'm kind of like not a big deal at all. Like I'm the novice. I'm looking forward to that, and I would hope that individuals listen to that overview, that webcast, Christina, listen to this after show conversation we're having and make some specific changes in their business too. Like I need to also invest in a stand so I stop knocking my stuff over, right? Preparation. I'm going to leave here today and I'm going to buy a stand that does not require for me to hold it up while I'm hitting mute.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things I took away that also just encompasses so much of what we talk about all the time, whether it be with our guests or in just our individual discussions or the ones where it's just us discussing, is how much everything she did came back to her why and how everything was just rooted in the future she's trying to not just create for herself, but community here in Detroit, community out there in LA, and that it was so clear of why these things occur and happen and why she's built these things this way and continues to grow in this way. And I think it's also a testament to her success as well, because when we talk about it all the time, and maybe and I know lots of people talk about it all the time, but when you're rooted in your why, you can get to these places easier, faster, or it's clear, right? Maybe not always easier, but like, but I think she was an amazing example of like, this is what happens when you're rooted in your why, right? You like, she told such a great story of her path too, of what that looked like through, you know, even the difficult times of what she went through to get to where she is, but how much that staying true to that why and staying true to the morals and vision and missions and whatever, just made everything still always fall in place when it needed to.
Yeah, agreed. Another thing that was inspiring is the way that she talked about Detroit and Detroit's grit and grind and work ethic and no nonsense approach to things, and not trusting and skeptical and those types of things, and how it's helped her kind of navigate being in LA. That she didn't get swindled and she didn't get played like many people do when they go to a different city and things are different. The way you move around is different. And she mentioned that she didn't get took in finding an apartment, which I didn't even know was a thing. That people are trying to swindle you in some kind of way to gouge you for dollars or whatever it was. She was able to use her spidey senses that she developed in the city of Detroit in order to not be hoodwinked or bamboozled. And then in addition to that, she just talked about there's a huge network of Detroiters in California. So if you're somebody who's thinking about moving out there, get in touch with that Detroit group who's hanging out. And she talked about also how successful a lot of them are that came from Detroit, that they have the grind, and all they needed was opportunity. And so in LA, of course, it's easy. It's not going to say easier, but there are lots of things going on. So you're able to plug into some places. And if you already have the work ethic of, don't stop till you drop and all of those things that we say here in the city, it was easier for some people to be able to navigate and move around. And I thought that was really cool that she gave Detroit a shout out like that. And this is her home. And that, she kind of laid out how important it was for those people here. And the lessons that we learn and how hard it is and how we grind, be able to take that someplace else and be able to win. That was awesome.
For sure.
The other thing too that struck me about her is she had that balance. Right. Sometimes, and I don't think it's just a Detroit thing, I think it's a Midwest thing. We are going so hard all the time that you can see it in our faces. Her energy was still inviting. She was still enthusiastic. She was still excited about the work she's doing. That's important. People oftentimes aren't necessarily paying attention to what you say, but how you say it. They're not paying attention to what you're doing, but the enthusiasm you bring to the table in terms of what it is you're doing. At least my experience has been here in Detroit, people, we see the game a mile away, right? We see people when they're trying to put us in a bag. We see it coming a mile away, And because of that, I think oftentimes we don't get excited about a lot of things. We're trying to figure out what's the game someone's trying to run on us, right? But you still have to be enthusiastic. You almost have to be like a defibrillator, right? Because people are so kind of down in the doldrums. Sometimes you have to be the person to wake folks up. People want to see something that's genuine. They want to see something that's real. They want to see something that's exciting that they can get enthusiastic and pour their energies into. I want to be a part of organizations and collectives and projects where there's energy, where people are thinking big and they can see like an incredible future ahead of them, where there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, that was a reminder too, to start getting excited about the things that I do. Like part of the reason why I blew up my life over the last 2 weeks is I realized a lot of the projects I was involved in, I wasn't excited. Things are going well, successes were happening. I was collecting receipts, but I wasn't excited about a lot of the projects I was involved in. And I know with me being a little bit of a creative, I can go off the rails, kind of like what I'm doing now, even in this discussion, right? My mind just starts going. But I like to pour myself into things where I can let all the energy out. And it's hard to do that when you're surrounded by people who are in the doldrums, just kind of head down. I love the fact that, like I said, with every project she spoke about, a smile came over her face, like she lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And I think that's another important lesson that, particularly for our Detroit entrepreneurs who are listening, we got to remember to do that sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard though. I mean, I get it. And I'm not saying that's not, the best way, but I do understand a lot of times when, you're under it. You know what I mean? You're under fire and it's hard and people don't understand and you're going through and, getting the grind in and working way too many hours. And, so oftentimes that's the weight you see on someone's face when they are just about it, But I think it's a good reminder for us to, raise our heads, and I'm taking all of us because we're all in businesses. First, to raise our heads and to do things that make us happy and, remember why we're doing this in the first place. And one of my whys is freedom. So if I can't do things that allow me to be free, then I'm not doing something right. So I, chasing the idea that I can go anywhere and do anything I'd like to do, be able to move around how I want to, be able to develop processes and procedures and for my staff and being able to kind of give incentives the way that I want to. And all of that is really important to me, right? And so that freedom is my why, my freedom and also my peace. You have to talk about chasing my peace of being in a place where I feel serene and settled. And, it doesn't mean I don't have peaks and valleys. It just means I'm in the right space and I'm going in the right direction. I have peace about those things. I have peace about the clients that I choose. I don't choose every client. I know all money is not good money. And so being able to be free to select and have peace in my selection is super important. So like, I think just a reminder of the why will help us to smile more and being able to kind of remember why we were doing this and just to have a good time in it as well, right? Just have fun in some of the things that you really love to do. And I think this is a good reminder of that. Reminding ourselves that it's okay to smile. It's okay to go hang out with your friends. It's okay to do some of the things that you want to do, that it doesn't have to be the grind and the hustle 24/7 all day long, every day, without any of that. I think you can include that and have some sort of, satisfaction in the fact that you remember your why and you're having a good time. And so smiling is awesome.
Well, and we have a whole discussion that Juwan and I did a few weeks ago about sacrifices and not sacrifices within entrepreneurship that talked a lot more about that, a lot more about why are you building this life the way that you are and what does that really look like. So there's more on that. If you're tuned into that, you can dive into that episode.
Everything.
Yeah, we've got enough episodes. Well, we appreciate you all joining us here today, here live on Facebook, or if you're watching the replay on YouTube. We're going to have more discussions like this in the future and keep diving into the amazing things that we learn or reminded about from our guests as well. If there's ever anything that you'd like us to talk about more or dive into more, please let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the things we talked about today here in the comments as well, here in our after show group on Facebook. And don't forget though, as well, if you are watching the replay on YouTube, just hit subscribe. You can also visit our website at nextoppsocial.com to learn more about everything we do. And please invite people into the group, share this episode with anyone you think would get value from it. Hopefully this inspires you to go watch some of our other replays, or if you haven't watched the interview with Kristina, please go do so. We know you'll get a lot out of it, and we will talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.